A friend of mine, Ubermancer, or as I know him, Eloy, responded to one of my videos the other day, and his response got me thinking. He was talking about character death. But I wasn't just thinking about character death, I ended up going down a rabbit hole. And we're going to talk a little bit about character death and horror and tabletop role-playing games, and how to make that an effective thing, a good experience for the players, and what they're really looking for from a scary game. Character death should not be something that goes to a certain way of playing the game. Character death should be a part of the challenge no matter which way you approach the game. I don't care if you're in it for the so-called story, or if you're in it to play a board game. Either way, character death should be the same in both, right? There should be no difference. It's part of the challenge, right? So when you fail, the ultimate failure in a tabletop role-playing game is what? Character death. How you experience character death will be different from one way of playing the game to another. Yeah, you'll have a different experience. But there is a common experience that goes between either way, and that is that character death sucks. It can be shallow. It can be meaningless. And you can make all the complaints you want. Yes, character death is meant to be negative, right? It can be an experience that is actually exciting. Like, it can lead to a good session. You went into that fight with a brave character, and the way they died, somehow you're satisfied. You don't feel cheated by the game or the game master. You knew what you were doing. You weren't trying to get the character killed, but you're okay with the outcome. But either way, it's going to suck because you still have to move on from that character. Character death is going to suck all the time. Complaining about the negative side of character death doesn't make it that it's not appropriate for the game or for the experience. Yeah, it's going to suck, and it should be something you want to avoid. What it really does, in many cases, is it makes you a better player. Because once you have that experience, well, you probably want to avoid it, right? And your attempt to avoid character death, is a learning process. You can go too far where you're too safe, so you're never taking any risk. But you'll come back, you'll balance that out. That will sooner or later work itself out, and you overall become a better player. If you avoid character death, you become a better, maybe amateur actor in a drama class? How do you make a tabletop role-playing game spooky? Scary. Like, how do you make a horror tabletop role-playing game actually seem horrific? Like, put your players on that edge. Well, if you have tried, you may have noticed that many techniques fail. Like a description. You think that would work. A good description would get players on the edge. But in many cases, that doesn't work. On rare occasions, maybe with a new player, you can get a player that shows up at the table ready to be spooked, ready to be scared, ready to be on the edge. And in those circumstances, sometimes even a bad game master can get them there. But we're not always that lucky. If you're a public game master like me, and you're running for, a multitude of different people that are going to be strangers, then you're not always going to be running into people ready to be scared. So they're waiting for you to scare them. And if your techniques like description, trying to throw some shock in there, with the way they're going to encounter some spooky ghost or monster or what have you, if that's not working, well, then what's going wrong? Why isn't that working? Like, is it just the mindset of the players, right? Is there any fault in what you're doing? Well, to a degree, it's nobody's fault, not the game master or the players, right? The players can't make themselves, all ready to be afraid. They want to be afraid, but they're going to go into it like they would a spooky movie, where they're going to let the movie scare them. So what is it? The game is that movie. And they're waiting for the game to scare them. And you use these techniques, but, they're not working. And I'll tell you why. Because there is a atmosphere, a feel that goes into the scary movie. At least good ones. And that atmosphere, that feel is to prep the minds of the people watching the movie or what have you leading up to the scary moment. So when they get there, they're on the edge and they're going to be afraid. They're going to be shocked or what have you. Well, how do you get them to feel that way? How can you prep players leading up to the scary moments so they might actually scare the people playing your game? Well, here's how you do it as a game master. You want to make sure that players that are playing a scary game, a game meant to be like horrific, you want them to have some experience with you where you allow them in the game that you're running to fall on their face. You allow character death. You allow the ultimate failure. And you don't hold back. No holding their hands, no kindness. You're not being mean. You just let things play out. So the cruelty of the dice rolls and how that goes, you allow the cruelty to happen. You allow character death to happen, no matter what feelings it's going to cause with the players or even if it's going to bother you. You let it happen. Now, after you do all that and players have that experience with you and they believe that you are a game master that will not hold back whatsoever. You don't hold back. When failure comes, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to them. And they know it's not that you're being mean. You're just not being nice. There's no feelings. It's complete, cold, unemotional reaction. Now, after they have that experience with you, and you take them to a scary, horrific game, and they know in their minds, you don't hold back on anything. You allow the cruelty to happen. I guarantee players going into that game will be on an edge of, what's around the corner. Anytime they hear a noise and they line that up with the fact that you won't hold back, and that can lead to anything cruel, their character death, the whole 9 yards. You tell them that their characters hear a noise, and they're going to, as players, be more on edge. And then when you cycle them through these places and you get them up to the real scary stuff, and again, they're in the mindset that they know that you don't hold back nothing, they're going to be more afraid, right? They're going to have a better experience, right? And that's how you take someone who's not like coming in with the mindset to be, scared. You get them there through that way. They just got to take you serious, and boom, you have them where you want them, right? Like, you got them, right? You got them by the balls or whatever you want to call it. You have it. They're going to be afraid. And we know what I mean by not holding back. You simply allow character death to happen. So character death is a psychological thing on the players where it really messes with their minds, but in the right way. It makes them better players. It preps their minds better for playing a horror tabletop role-playing game. It's nothing but good comes from it. But you have to go through bad times to get to the good times. But if you avoid character death, if you avoid living under that pressure, the intensity that it's going to bring to the game, well, then maybe you're not going to be scared when you go play the horror thing. And a lot of what you're doing in these games are going to feel empty when you know your character just can't die, right? There's going to be a lot of emptiness. And maybe you just haven't experienced something else, so you don't know that the emptiness is even there. Like, lucky you if that's the case. But I'll tell you, this is like a drug. Once you have the proper experience, you go through the crappy moment of losing a character, but you come back and you have that, great on-the-edge horror tabletop role-playing game session. And you are playing better later when you're meeting new players, and you can show off that you're an experienced player who knows what you're doing. That stuff is fantastic. It's great to be there, right? It's great to be in that spot, but you got to go through a downtime. You got to go through a bad time to get to that, and there's no free way to get to that. So you can't avoid character death and then get to this experience, over here. You can't. You have to go through it. So again, if you avoid that, you're missing out on something very important to all tabletop role-playing games, in my opinion. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.